Hello and welcome back to the cesspool, and welcome back to the floor. And, well, okay, it's been a minute, I know. And, I could come up with a lot of excuses for why I've been missing, but, honestly, I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat it. There's just been a lot of stuff going on, but I'm back. And you know what? I'm back with a bit of a doozy because I have some interesting stuff to talk about. I have, something that I've always loved looking through is video game packaging. And today we get to look at something a little interesting. Yep, Game Boy Color games. And you might be thinking, oh, well, we've all kind of seen Game Boy Color games. This is not that interesting. But actually, it is. Not because it's Dragon's Lair. Who cares about that? It's because we're not looking at just any Game Boy Color games. We are looking at Japanese Game Boy Color games. And I've got a couple of very, very pretty ones to actually have as an example here. Now, I have a bit of a confession to make. Let's get that thing out of the way. I have a bit of a confession to make. I don't own one of these games. Well, I do because I technically I bought it, but I don't own one of these games. I got both of these games at a local game shop. They happened to be there, and I saw them, and I was like, holy shit, these are absolutely gorgeous. So I call up my buddy who also loves this stuff, and he's like, "Oh, you're a Pokemon Silver, Soul Silver kind of guy. I think you'd be interested in this." And I'm a bit of a Heart Gold fan, or a regular Gold fan, but I played Heart Gold as a kid, so I was like, "Oh, I need that one." But they were both here, and he wasn't there, so I bought both of them. He paid me for it, and I'm currently curating it until I got the chance to give it to him. So I have both of them right now, which is really, really cool. It's awesome to actually have a complete set, because I don't have any complete sets of Pokemon games, and it is very neat to own both of these and have them together. And it is gonna suck breaking them apart, even though that. They're just games. It's fine. There's probably a million other people who have these. And maybe not in America with the Japanese ones, but these are not that expensive, quite honestly. Finding American Heart Gold or Soul Silver cartridges, just a cartridge costs more than I think both of these games combined, which is absolutely crazy. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Pokemon game prices. We're here to talk about Game Boy Color games. And because, this bad boy is not mine, we're not going to look at that one. I won't open that. We'll just deal with gold here, which is actually mine. So, we'll take them apart, and we'll take a look at everything like we normally do when we do these unboxings. And this is technically not my first time, because the guy at the store opened it to show me everything in here. So I've technically seen everything, but it has been a little bit since I've opened these. And we will compare to the American or the North American versions of Game Boy boxes. Before I even open that, let's talk about that. Because first things first, the size difference is pretty noticeable. Number one, the entire Japanese box is the same size as just the artwork for the North American. You could cut off the Game Boy Color header from the North American box, and it would be roughly the size. It would technically still be bigger than the entire Japanese box, which is just kind of crazy. And Japan does this, and I don't know why, except with the N64 games. For some reason, those were technically bigger than the North American ones, which is just very weird. So anyway, yeah, that's comparison number one. The logos are actually about the same. The only difference is that the Japanese one is actually a little bit more simplified. There's not kind of that dated, number one, the silver kind of effect, that background or whatever. And then the color is not 3D in the Japanese one, like it is in the North American one. It is just, that kind of Kid Pix font. But everything else is you know, I mean, it's all going to be a little bit different because, yeah, obviously, it's all going to be in Japanese. And obviously, this is the period of time when in Japan, Pokemon was still known as Pocket Monsters, which is, again, very cool. I do love that, you know, we have a lot of metallic effects on these boxes, and that's mostly just the Pokemon games, but it is really, really pretty. Like, these are just such works of art. They really, really are. I can't stress it enough. You know, you got all your safety information and stuff like that. Pretty cool to see this little logo to show that the game is, you know, it's played in color, I imagine. Because we don't really get anything like that. Yeah, no, it's just the game, just the normal junk. So, let's open this up. I think that's what we're all kind of waiting here for. First things first. We get a nice little plastic sleeve where the game comes in, and this fits the entire box. And this is kind of a, we'll talk about the paper. So this is the thing that the game comes in. And like the N64 games, which were coming out at around the same time, we got a plastic insert, not paper that the cartridge just sits in. It's the same problem that our North American Game Boy games have. The cartridge would just sit in cardboard. It wouldn't be protected by anything. And there would be nothing to hold the shape of the box, which is why so many of our boxes get messed up. So it's very nice that the Japanese versions actually cared enough, or that Nintendo actually cared enough with the Japanese versions of these games, where they actually designed a plastic sleeve. What a concept. It actually keeps the shape of the box. And on top of that, that was stupid. On top of that, the game comes in a plastic case? I mean, come on. And this is like a hard plastic case. This is not, you know, this is not gonna, this is not going anywhere. This thing is heavy duty. You know, and it's got a little latch. And obviously we got the game in here. Wow. It's pretty interesting that they would change the cartridge colors too, and these were playable on original Game Boy, obviously, because they were not they were concave up here instead of convex. Unlike Dragon's Lair in particular, this one actually is for Game Boy Color only, so it has the convex top to it. But the regular gold and silver, I guess they did want to sell better, so you know, they actually made it available for the original Game Boy as well. But anyway, yeah, that's really, really neat. It's really neat that it keeps the box in good condition. That's why so many of these boxes are in better condition than ours, because there was a little bit more of an incentive to keep them, because there was more plastic packaging. It wasn't like disposable paper. But now, of course, we must talk about the paper that did come in the box, and we'll go over the little ad in a minute, but we will take a look at the Japanese manuals. And like, this is again, you know, this is what manuals were manuals. This thing is meaty as hell. I don't know what any of it is saying, but you know, you have a table. There's 52 pages in this, kind of. Like, come on. And it is interesting because at this point we were getting actual screenshots. I don't really know how they captured it, but you know, whatever. Oh, the Super Game Boy. That's right, the Super Game Boy was out at this point. And Super Game Boy 2 would have been out in Japan. So weird. It's very weird that they probably captured it off of a Super Game Boy for the Super Nintendo when the N64 would have been out at this point. It's very weird, but that is probably how they did it. That's the easiest way. Yeah, we're getting real screenshots. Wow, what a concept. That's really, I mean, you know, it's a pretty meaty book. No resale. Interesting that they were saying that the manual had no resale. Not the game. I mean, obviously the game, you know, it is what it is. But we don't really see not for resale manuals. That's a little odd. And then the last thing we got in here is the Game Boy Color brochure, And we have the different color variations that were available in Japan at this time. The clear one, of course, famously, was only in Japan, and was the Game Boy Horror in Luigi's Mansion, which of course I have because I am a maniac and I had to get the clear one so that I could make a proper Game Boy Horror from Luigi's Mansion. And other stuff we've got in here, in this little pamphlet. Wow, we live in Color World. Color display. High compatibility. High quality. Yeah, I would argue that all of these statements are technically true. It is in fact compatible with older Game Boy games. And I would say that the quality of this system is better than what came before it. I mean, the Game Boy Pocket, I do think, was a very, it was a pretty good looking system. And I think that the quality was obviously a lot better than the original Game Boy. And the Game Boy Light was out in Japan at this time, but whatever. Yeah, so they're really saying that the Game Boy Color is high quality. We do live in Color World. Nice mistranslation, but you know, we forgive it. Over here we have, oh wow, okay, link cable. Oh, AC adapter. Huh. Yeah, headphones. All that's fun stuff. Wow, okay, this is interesting. It's just all about link cables and how to link different systems together. That is fascinating, actually. It's very weird that this is how, this is all they advertise. They weren't advertising like tons of games and stuff like that. It was literally just like, oh, these are the accessories for the Game Boy Color. The Game Boy Color can play games in color. That's it. There's some colors for it too. You like the word color? There's a lot of color in this. There's 4, 5 colors just on the screen right now, which is ridiculous. Yeah, so that's Japanese Game Boy Color games. They are so much better than ours. So much better than ours. I do like our square boxes. I will say that. It's cool to have kind of the tall boxes. Japan has always kind of done that with both the home consoles and with the freaking handhelds up through the Game Boy Advance, and then of course we went back to the square sizes for the DS, and we did have smaller packaging in Japan for a while afterward through the GameCube, obviously, which is interesting, and I would love to cover that. I'm gonna need to get some Japanese GameCube games because they are very fascinating and very reminiscent of the Nintendo Switch today. So that is Japanese Game Boy Color games, and I'm very lucky to have both of these in my possession at the moment. They look beautiful, and this one will be going to a good home. I hate to break up the set, but that's how it is. These are interesting. They really, really are. It's always interesting to compare packaging from what we know and other regions, and Japan generally has the most drastic differences. Europe sometimes has some weird stuff, but Japan really, they're on a different level of stuff, of usually quality and design. But that's not the North American market. The North American market wants giant Game Boy logo. So anyway, that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I don't know when the next video will be, but I will see you guys then.